Quick Wear+Multiple male Supports+Female leads unique Beauty+Refuse to be a love Brain+Slice male lead, daily change of 4000. Qiao Qiao is a tarot card spirit monster that can predict good or bad, determine life or death, and she accidentally bound a system. The system says to make them willingly submit and bow down under her skirt. Number 1, dressing up as a wealthy heiress. Currently, the entertainment industry is in progress. Qiao Qiao, who rose to prominence in the entertainment industry with a movie, has won countless black fans. The media has captured her black absorption physique and filmed her crazily. The photos were leaked, causing a sensation on the internet. In the car, the proud son of heaven, who had once galloped on the track, was carefully leaning over and clumsily putting on Qiao Qiao's headphones, with a low and devout posture. Number 2, wearing the Princess of Peace and Harmony, Ancient Strategy and Power chapter to be continued. As soon as the carriage landed, Qiao Qiao, who was married under the name of Princess Chang of Great Wei, lifted the golden jade pendant curtain and looked at the little cons on the grassland like wolves and tigers. She curved her lips and smiled. Why don't we discuss how to quickly capture the first city of Great Wei? Number 3, wearing Lingji Little Demon, Group Pet Immortal Cultivation chapter to be carried out. Qiao Qiao glanced at the demon lord who was holding her to restore her blood bar. She casually took a divination, and unfortunately, the immortal lord side will also see blood tonight. If she doesn't go back, sooner or later. The hand that was touching the card was suddenly grabbed by someone, and the person with her chin pressed against her shoulder socket spoke in a muffled voice, "Who are you thinking about?" Number 4, to dress up as a novice player, escape game to be played. Number 5, dressed in. Pending keywords of the novel. After becoming a master, I became a full-level fan with no pop-ups. After becoming a master, I became a full-level fan with no pop-ups. Download the complete text. After becoming a master, I became a full-level fan with no pop-ups. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. 1,000 gold wears the clothes to become a rich family's 1,000 gold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. 1,000 gold wears the clothes to become a rich family's 1,000 gold. Have you really decided? The man's deep voice was filled with questioning, and even a hint of imperceptible impatience. When Qiao Qiao woke up, she heard such an inexplicable sentence from the other party. She keenly caught his negative emotions. She subconsciously roast. What a fool. She pretended to be 13. As soon as the words were spoken, there was a moment of silence in the spacious living room. Qiao Qiao was stunned and swallowed back the latter half of the sentence. Immediately after, all the abnormalities in her body made her eyes wide open in an instant. What about her flat body? Where is her favorite bookshelf corner? What about the neurotic book friends who often mutter in front of her? Watching the woman sitting on the sofa straighten her waist and back even when distracted, the man furrowed his brows slightly. Having been with Qiao Xinyue for so many years, he cannot deny one thing, which is the beauty of his wife. The woman had a delicate appearance, with soft and white skin, a pointed chin, and a swan neck, which were the pearl jewelry that matched her earlobes and neck, weakening the vividness she should have at her age. Lu Ju watched as Qiao Yeye transformed into the same appearance as his aunt, an aunt whom he had seen since childhood, elegant and dignified, yet like a soulless string puppet. However, as he watched the woman finish her inexplicable sentence, he seemed somewhat surprised as he flipped his hands over and over again. Even with his good upbringing, Lu Yen couldn't bear it anymore. He said, "Qiao Xinyue, what are you saying? Can we have a good conversation?" He thought that women were pretending not to hear what they had just said, just like before. What are we talking about? Qiao Qiao suddenly looked up and realized that she seemed to have really entered a human body. Only then did she realize that there was someone sitting across from her. Upon hearing these words, a hint of surprise flashed through Lu Huan's eyes, but soon he put that strange feeling behind him. Like countless times before, he tried to suppress his exhaustion and said, "Let's talk about our divorce." What? Divorce? Qiao Qiao was so surprised that she pinched her palm in pain, but even so, there was no sign of anything unusual on her face. Seeing the other party's first expression of wanting to listen quietly to him finish speaking, Lu Huan's eyebrows relaxed slightly and he continued, "If you insist on leaving, it's okay. In the next few days, I will have Zhou Jie draft 2 complete documents for you to send. The issue of property division and company shares will be written according to your instructions." Speaking of which, Lu Huan paused for a moment and then thought of something else. "I only have one thing," your parents sighed. "You need to explain it clearly." Qiao Qiao, who had not figured out what was going on, now had her brain almost turned into a pulp. She was a bit afraid that the nagging human would notice something was wrong, so she had to hang her head slightly, wishing she could stare at the coffee table in front of her and see the flowers. "Qiao Xingyue. Did you hear what I said?" Suddenly, he called out. This was calling her, and Qiao Qiao quickly pounded her head like garlic and said, She looked like this, causing Lu Huan to furrow his brows again. He looked at Qiao Qiao with a heavy expression for a while, and seeing that she didn't show the usual look of remorse, Lu Huan breathed a sigh of relief. In the midst of a stalemate, the man didn't want to stay any longer, so he grabbed his coat on the sofa and stood up, distancing himself by saying the last sentence, "There's still a meeting at the company. I'll leave first, and I'll have Zhou Jie contact you for further matters." After the smart door lock landed with a click sound, Qiao Qiao finally breathed a sigh of relief. She relaxed her tense and stiff body, leaning on the soft sofa. Human beings just love to talk and talk nonsense. Do we have to emphasize it so many times in one sentence? After thinking for a moment, Qiao Qiao lay on the pillow of the sofa, and with a gentle wave of her right hand, a stack of tarot cards with a faint glow appeared in her palm out of thin air. They were listed one by one, and Qiao Qiao clicked once to confirm that she could still do divination. After that, she let go of her worries. Now calming down, memories of the past flooded into Zhou's mind, and it was only then that he remembered something. A month ago, while she was dozing off in the corner of the bookstore, a strange voice suddenly asked her if she wanted to retrieve her body. Qiao Qiao is a master of tarot cards. Counting her age, she naturally realized that she had been in the hands of a Western witch for thousands of years. However, perhaps it was too long ago, and in her endless slumber, her memories were somewhat blurred. She only remembered that she had once cultivated a human body, but during her 100 years in the bookstore, although she could use star divination, she could never find a way to transform back into her body. So, when the voice who said he was the system asked her this and gave her the conditions to retrieve her body, Jojo agreed without hesitation. Staying in the corner as a plaything and enjoying endless years of waste is really too lonely. Looking back at this, Qiao Qiao paused for a moment and cautiously shouted, "TT. Are you there?" A child's voice suddenly rang out in my mind. "Here." Upon hearing that the other party was indeed still there and did not leave her to escape, Qiao Qiao's heart settled. "Can you show me the memories of the original owner?" Qiao Qiao was still a bit unfamiliar with the feeling of becoming human, so she moved her whole body onto the sofa, like a soft and boneless fish lying on the shore. She hugged a pillow, her head hanging on the soft armrest of the sofa. TT whispered, "Okay." The task given to her by Cha-Cha is to immerse her in 3 different worlds to complete the strategic mission, and each small world is depicted in a novel through text, so the character setting and general plot direction are fixed. When Qiao Qiao agreed to this task, she felt just so easy for a while, until she received all the memories about the world and almost rolled off the sofa. "Isn't that right, Cha-Cha? Did you intentionally mess with me?" Qiao Qiao's hand, which was holding tassels by the pillow, was trembling and his face twisted. In this world, it is rumored that the female customer is Bai Yueguang, whom the male customer has been secretly in love with since he was on campus. As soon as she returned from studying at an art college abroad, not only did the male customer's attention quickly shift to her, but he also quickly processed the divorce procedures with his wife who was married in business. Even more so, it made all the male supporting characters fall for it. Gu Shiyao wanted to enter the entertainment industry, and famous directors who won various awards with soft hands escorted her, in order to boost her popularity on the variety show. The big shot actors and gold medalist athletes from the guests all cooperated with her to create an atmosphere. With such a group of men helping her career, Gu Shiyao is well known on the big screen. Amidst the voices of talented wealthy heirs, beauty responsibilities in every drama, and explosive popularity from netizens, she entered the marriage hall with the male lead of the CEO. Why didn't the story mention the plot of the original owner Qiao Qiao? Because Qiao Qiao, the body that Qiao Qiao is wearing now, is the marriage partner of the male lead who has no attachment or friendship towards her. The young lady of Shanghai Group, a truly wealthy daughter. For those who use browsers to read articles, clicking on the advertisement in the article is the motivation for authors to code for free. End of this chapter. Chapter 2 Qianjin 2. Even the dogs don't believe it when it's said. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Qianjin 2. Even the dogs don't believe it when it's said, Qiao Qiao, a wealthy and attractive member of the wealthy family, is still the only legal heir of the Shanghai Group. Isn't the male lead foolish and lacking? Just being a fake husband and wife with her is enough, and she still wants to divorce and marry a little white lotus. Isn't this female lead's aura too heavy? Qiao Qiao looked at her body while speaking, and at the end, her expression at this moment was as complex as an old man looking at his phone on the subway. If it's for her to choose, she must have a loving relationship with Qiao Qiao. Although Gu Shiyao is the female lead, in Qiao Qiao's perspective, she is a true white lotus. When the male protagonist had already decided to let go of Bai Yueguang, the news of Gu Shiyao's car accident abroad spread to China, causing the male protagonist to abandon Qiao Yeye who was trying on his wedding dress and immediately fly to M country. This care lasted for 2 months, causing his wedding with Qiao Yeye to be postponed. Even after the two got married, news about Gu Shiyao occasionally reached the ears of the male lead, causing even more estrangement between their already separated marital relationship. Qiao Qiao didn't believe that these news were unintentionally heard by the male lead. It's okay to do it once or twice, but it happened repeatedly afterwards. There aren't so many coincidences in the world. Gu Shiyao definitely deliberately used caution inside, but unfortunately, this blind male lead couldn't see this trick of playing hard to get and was repeatedly hit. If she were really Qiao Qiao, wouldn't she be directly angry and wealthy by this pair of scumbags and lowly women? Upon hearing Qiao Qiao's complaints, Cha Cha did not speak again. The scariest thing is, Qiao Qiao's tone became increasingly angry. TT, do you still want me to go and conquer this male lead? And what else are these directors and movie stars? They are all under Gu Shiyao's tutelage. As soon as she appears, she immediately fills up her favorability. Do I still need to conquer them? Cha Cha quietly listened to her finish the conversation, and her soft voice mixed with a hint of doubt. So, won't Qiao Qiao do this task? Not doing tasks means not having the body. Qiao Qiao choked and her anger suddenly dissipated. She grabbed the pillow in her arms and said, "Then I'm willing to give in." After receiving a definite answer, the voice of TT returned to gentleness. Please ask the host to claim the task. 1. Fulfill Qiao Qiao's wish to become a well-known actor. 2. The strategy is 100% successful, with a current positive rating of 1 and a progress rate of 1%. 3. Strategy Season Way. 100%, currently has 0 positive rating and 0 progress. 4. The strategy for Qianjin is 100%, currently with 0 likes and 0 progress. When Qiao Qiao heard clearly how much Lu Huan liked her, he almost vomited a mouthful of blood. Lu Ju is the male lead. He and Qiao Qiao have been childhood sweethearts for 11 years now, and even though they have only been married for more than 3 years, their favorability is only 1. This **** beep. Even dogs don't believe it. Qiao Qiao was almost furious. She thought that although Qiao Xinyue was just a commercial alliance with the male lead, at least there should be a mediocre and indifferent affection, but the result. Qiao Qiao can't help but complain bitterly that the man in the novel is so damn loyal. You are noble and remarkable. You can only see the female lead in your eyes, right? T quickly comforted. Calm down. As it spoke, it further detailed the ongoing plot for Qiao Qiao to distract her attention. In fact, when Lu Huan just mentioned divorce to her, Qiao Qiao had already guessed roughly that now should be when Qiao Xinyue and Lu Huan were preparing to divorce, and Lu Huan's white moon was rumored to be about to return to China. The word of divorce was still brought up by Qiao Xinyue. Previously, because Gu Shiyao was as arrogant as her, she could no longer tolerate Lu Huan's estrangement and preference for Gu Shiyao. She repeatedly threatened to divorce Lu Huan. The Qiao and Lu families are close families, and the film industry under the Qiao family's Shanghai group is one of the few in a province. However, after graduating, Lu Jing received the help of the Qiao family, which helped the Lu family return to the peak of the business world during their internal and external troubles. If the news of the breakdown of the marriage alliance between the two families spreads, not to mention that it will cause a drop in the shares of the Lu family, it will also be enough for the Lu family to drink a pot of wine even if other business tycoons are eyeing it. More importantly, the Qiao family is not easy to provoke. Qiao Xinyue was certain that Lu Ju would not choose to break with the Qiao family for the sake of Gu Shiyao, a destitute fake daughter. Therefore, she thought that after she proposed divorce, Lu Ju would have some concerns and choose to return to her side, but she did not expect that this action would only push Lu Ju further away. Today, after seeing the message sent by Qiao Xinyue, Lu Ju rushed over and decided to agree to Qiao Xinyue's choice. Divorce. When Qiao Qiao thought that she wanted to learn more about Lu Mei, she felt very headache. While she had a chance to tell her and Lu Mei's next situation, she murmured roast. For a man like Lu Mei, his wife was still thinking about Bai Yueguang. She simply didn't have a little sense of male morality, and it was worth Qiao Xinyue, a rich lady, to lower her head and lower her value. The reverse papal card. Qiao Qiao's fingertips flipped in the void, revealing a shimmering white light card. On the card, the inverted pope sat on the throne wearing a red robe symbolizing nobility, wearing a triple crown on his head, holding a staff in his left hand, and the index and middle fingers in his right hand facing upwards, creating a sense of spiritual suppression. The papal card is reversed, representing dictatorship, marital difficulties, and elder control. It is obvious that there will not be a very attractive situation between her and Lu Huan in the future. Cha-cha, what is the password for Qiao Xinyue's phone? Qiao Qiao pondered for a while and reached out to take the phone from the coffee table. TT immediately replied to her. 0907, Qiao Qiao opened his phone and found the person with the note, Assistant Yao, in his contact list. He directly dialed the other person's phone number, and the bell rang only twice before being quickly answered. Mississippi. Assistant Yao is from the Qiao family. When Qiao Xinyue was appointed as the general manager of the group, her father specifically allocated it to help her share company affairs. He was called an assistant, but at the beginning, it was more like guiding Qiao Xinyue's senior. However, after 2 years of practice, Qiao Xinyue made decisive decisions in the mall, and Assistant Yao truly became an assistant who only helped her with trivial matters. What is my schedule for the next 2 days? Qiao Qiao recalled the tone of Qiao Xinyue's speech and was quickly answered by the other person, as if her itinerary had been memorized in her mind. At 2 p.m. in the afternoon, there will be a meeting at headquarters and the Ministry of Commerce. At 6 p.m. in the evening, the Vice President of Xinjiang Company will invite you. Tonight's dinner party was postponed for me, and tomorrow afternoon's time is also available to schedule an appointment with the CEO of Xingua Entertainment for me. Assistant Yao paused for a moment. He had been with Mista for over 3 years, and it was the first time he had heard Miss De say such things about people who see stars and fruits. Perhaps it was because the company had some business dealings with them recently. Assistant Yao suppressed his surprise and agreed. After hanging up the phone, Qiao Qiao glanced at the time. It was already past 5 o'clock. She tidied up and hurried back to the old house to have dinner. The time was just right. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Qianjin 3 has seen you 8 times. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Qianjin 3 has seen you 8 times. Sitting in the car, Qiao Qiao held a small mirror to tidy up her makeup. She looked at the person in the mirror with a slightly green eye circle, white lips, and dull and lifeless eyes, maintaining a perfect state. Only then did a hint of satisfaction flash through her eyes. Cha-Cha reminded her, "Your driver has already looked at you 8 times through the rearview mirror." After hearing these words, Qiao Qiao didn't even lift his eyelids, but silently answered the TT in his heart, "Don't panic." She put the mirror back in her bag and turned her head to look at the dark sky outside the car window. If it weren't for getting familiar with how to walk at home, she wouldn't have arrived at her old house by almost 7 o'clock. Xiao Yu, who was driving, couldn't help but drop the remaining light onto the rearview mirror inside the car, through which he could clearly see the every move of the figure in the back seat. The car window was half lowered, and the wind blowing in gently brushed the young lady's black hair against her ear. The dazzling lights outside the window reflected on the beautiful side face. In an instant, Xiao Yu felt that his heart had been fiercely stabbed. At the same time, Xiao Yu couldn't help but complain roast that President Liu is too ignorant. Miss wants money, money, and beauty. Just sitting there motionless is as pleasing to the eye as a painting, but unfortunately, with such a beautiful wife at home, Mr. Liu would rather stay in the office every day. Today, Mr. Liu had just returned home, and the young lady looked as if she had lost her soul. She looked haggard and called out to her to come back to her old house. "Xiao Yu, pay attention to the road." A gentle voice rang out, and Xiao Yu suddenly regained her senses. The red light in front had already turned green, and she lightly stepped on the accelerator, but couldn't help but say, "Miss, why do you suddenly want to go back to your old house?" Since taking over the company, the young lady has been devoted to her work, possibly due to Mr. Qiao's strict nature. The father and daughter have been falling apart in recent years, and the young lady rarely thinks of going home. After listening to Xiao Yu's words, Qiao Qiao didn't feel that the other party had offended her. On the contrary, she even lowered her eyes slightly, with a perfectly sad expression on her face and a voice as light as if floating in the air. "It's just a sudden feeling that I haven't understood it in all these years." Through the rearview mirror, Xiao Yu could see the expression on her face too clearly. Upon hearing this again, Xiao Yu was naturally misled by her success. She imagined that Miss De and Mr. Liu had a real argument, and with heartbreak, Miss De suddenly realized that she cared too little for her family. When the car arrived at the entrance of a duplex villa, Xiao Yu was still a bit dazed, while Qiao Qiao had already taken a mirror and looked at her tired and haggard appearance multiple times before she pushed open the door with her skirt in hand. The news that she was coming back for dinner was communicated to the butler of the old house early in the morning by Xiao Yu, who also served as a driver and life assistant. As soon as he heard the sound of the car driving into the yard, the butler Zhang Bo immediately welcomed him out, his face full of wrinkles carrying a hint of excitement. Seeing the figure getting off the car, Zhang Bo approached him and was about to speak. However, after seeing the person's expression clearly, Zhang Bo's words paused and his eyes showed a hint of heartache. "Miss, did you not sleep well last night?" Before coming out, Qiao Qiao deliberately changed into a white ankle-length dress, loose, with a deliberately pale makeup on her face. In Zhang Bo's eyes, she looked like a fragile figure that could be blown away by a gust of wind. Qiao Qiao shook his head and showed a barely propped-up smile, saying, "Uncle Zhang, I'm fine. Hurry in and don't let Dad wait for too long." Perhaps Xiao Yu, who was following her, saw Qiao Qiao in the car with a much gentler attitude. She couldn't help but say to Zhang Bo, "You don't know, Mr. Lu went home just now and hasn't been back for most of the month." Suddenly. "What are you all doing in the yard?" Before Xiaoyu could finish her words, she was interrupted by such a serious voice. She suddenly became agitated and lowered her head, afraid to continue. Qiao Qiao looked up and saw the middle-aged man wearing casual clothes standing in the hallway, with slightly white temples and fiery eyes. The solemn expression between his eyebrows and eyes was truly intimidating, some of which made people feel scared. It goes without saying who this person is. With just a few glances, Qiao Qiao quickly withdrew his gaze, walked over slowly, and whispered, "Dad." According to the plot, Qiao's father, who started from scratch and has been immersed in shopping malls for more than 30 years, lacks warmth in his personality, and his relationship with Qiao Xinyue has become estranged over the years. Especially after hearing about the secret divorce between Qiao Xinyue and Lu Huan, Qiao's father didn't know about Lu Huan and Gu Shiyao. He thought it was because Qiao Xinyue had proposed divorce 3 or 4 times, which finally angered Lu Huan. After criticizing everyone, Qiao Xinyue was already upset about Lu Huan, and he heard Qiao's father accusing her regardless of right or wrong. His disappointment with his family reached its peak, and the relationship between father and daughter became even more rigid. "Unfortunately, I picked this point and came back. I don't know if I should come in and have dinner soon." Father Qiao appeared calm, but when he saw clearly that Qiao Qiao's face was unable to conceal his lethargy, his incoherent words immediately froze. Finally, he stubbornly said, "The food is going to be cold, come in quickly." Qiao's mother and father divorced in the year when Qiao Xinyue was in junior high school. Later, Qiao's mother went abroad to pursue her career, and only Qiao's father and some servants lived in the old house of the Qiao family. So, the style of decoration in the villa is as cold and hard as Qiao's father's. After washing his hands, Qiao Qiao sat on the dining table. The cooking servants were gradually serving the dishes to the table. The butler was afraid that Qiao Qiao might misunderstand, and the father and daughter would become estranged again. He quickly explained, "Sir is afraid that the young lady will come back late, so he has someone keep the dishes warm in the pot." "Lao Zhang." Father Qiao's face remained calm as he called out to Uncle Zhang. Uncle Zhang was clever and took the servants out, giving space to the father and daughter who had not seen each other for a long time. In the living room, there were only her and Qiao's father left, making it more convenient to talk. Qiao Qiao appeared to have no appetite and picked vegetables in the bowl with chopsticks, but she didn't speak. "If you want to eat it well and see what kind of vegetable leaves you have plucked." Qiao's father keenly noticed something unusual about Qiao Qiao, but as soon as he spoke, he felt that his words were too serious. So he unnaturally picked a chopstick of shrimp for Qiao Qiao and said, "This shrimp scrambled egg dish tastes pretty good. Even if you're busy with work, you have to take care of your body. Look at your eye circles, and it seems like you're staying up late all day. Is Yao Zilin a white-collar worker with you?" Although Qiao's father doesn't know how to care about people, he is actually Qiao Xinyue's father. When he feels sorry for his daughter, it doesn't seem like he is being hypocritical, just like this shrimp scrambled egg dish, which he remembers is Qiao Xinyue's favorite dish. Qiao Qiaowei lowered his eyes and felt a sense of confidence in his heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Her Mad Literature. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Her Mad Literature. After dinner, Qiao Qiao mentioned the purpose of her return and said, while her slightly red eyes drooped as she said, "Dad, Lu Huan wants to divorce me." As soon as these words were spoken, the air instantly fell silent for a moment. Cha Cha exclaimed, "Your acting skills are really good." Tears come and go, completely different from Qiao Xinyue's strong and gentle temperament before, but it does not arouse any suspicion, only making people feel that Qiao Qiao has been hurt and changed his temperament. Qiao's father was indeed furious, but unlike the original plot, this time he was angry with Lu Huan. This bastard grandson. Zhang Bo, call me his grandfather's phone. I must scold him well. Dad. Qiao Qiao lifted her face, her eyes slightly red, but her face was full of stubbornness. She whispered, since Lu Yan is unwilling to continue living with me, then don't force him. Let's get together and part ways. Watching her pretending to be strong, Qiao's father only saw her as a force, and his heartache and anger reached their peak. He wished he could rush directly to the Lu family to scold them now, but considering Qiao Qiao, he still held back a bit and said, it's good to gather and disperse. How dare Lu Ju bully you like this? I must settle this with his grandfather. Qiao Qiao lowered his head and remained silent, occasionally wiping the corners of his eyes with his fingertips. Qiao's father's anger subsided slightly, and after calming down, he asked again, what is the calculation of property distribution? And if you want to transfer the equity of the Lu family and Bai Hui in your hands, you must make plans before the news of your divorce is released. Qiao's father's words were equivalent to accepting her divorce from Lu Yan, which surprised Qiao Qiao a bit. Bai Hui was a company founded by Lu Shi during his university years. Later, after solving the internal and external problems of Lu Shi Group, he merged Lu Shi and Bai Hui. Lu Shi originally made a fortune in department stores, but now it has merged with the super operator Bai Hui, which can be considered as mutually beneficial. Because of the support from the Qiao family and the marriage relationship of Qiao Xinyue, after Lu Yuan and Qiao Xinyue got married, Lu Yuan's grandfather took the initiative to give 1/3 of his shares in the Lu family to Qiao Xinyue. Later, perhaps due to Gu Shiyao's rumors, Lu Huan felt guilty towards Qiao Xinyue and also divided 10% of Bai Hui's equity into her. To sum up, with 10% of Lu's shares in Bai Hui's equity, Qiao Qiao is now considered a wealthy woman with millions of shares. You don't have to worry, Assistant Yao will help me handle it together. Qiao Qiao deliberately showed a blank expression when she heard this. Yu Guang noticed Qiao's father casting a worried gaze, and she timely pointed out the final goal. Dad, I've been feeling very tired these years, and spending time with Lu Huan feels even more oppressive. I've been facing a cold and big house all day, without the smell of fireworks or human voices. Sometimes I'm really on the verge of collapse. And you know, I don't even want to manage a company. Every time I encounter those commercial intrigues, I want to scream and vent in an empty place countless times. But who can care about me and understand me? I want people to understand that whether I'm in the company or not is meaningless. Qiao Qiao portrayed her almost insane emotions to the fullest, and Cha-Cha stared at her performance of this crazy literature, speechless. Qiao's father was even more dazed by her venting words, and after a while, he said, New Moon. Let's take it easy. Dad won't urge you to become perfect in just one go. Dad, I've figured it out. I want to become an actor. Qiao Qiao interrupted her father's efforts in wording, wiping away the tears from the corners of her eyes that had come from acting too excitedly, and said solemnly. Qiao's father's eyes widened as he stood up from the sofa. Before he could say anything, he heard Qiao wipe her tears with sadness. She said, My life really seems to be plunged into darkness. If I can't fulfill my dream, I would rather die. Upon hearing the last sentence, Qiao's father choked on the unspoken words and slowly swallowed them back. He slowly sat back on the sofa. You are already an adult, just make your own decision. Don't keep talking about what doesn't mean to die. This can be considered as agreeing to Qiao Qiao's entry into the entertainment industry. After hearing his words, Qiao Qiao breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. In fact, the support that Qiao Xinyue needed and hoped for the most on the road to realizing her dream was her father. Once she dealt with her father, it was equivalent to making her journey smoother for the rest of her life. After the father and daughter finished chatting, it was already dark. Qiao's father was worried that Qiao Qiao might lose control of his emotions and couldn't take it seriously. He insisted that she stay at the old house to sleep. Qiao Qiao responded. The next day, Qiao Qiao got up early in the morning. She used to be nestled in the corner of the bookstore and often fell asleep, her bones were going to fall asleep. Now that she finally had the chance to become a human, she didn't want to stay in bed anymore. Qiao Qiao was originally thinking about how to bid farewell to her father. The old house is a bit far from the city, and since she is preparing to fulfill Qiao Qian's dream of becoming an actor, it is naturally impossible for her to live here all along. While sitting at the dining table eating breakfast, he was informed by the butler that Qiao's father had just left home. Upon hearing this, Qiao Qiao grabbed the hand of the fork rolling the pasta and stood up with her bag. Seeing her rushing to leave, Zhang Bo hurriedly chased after her. "Miss, don't misunderstand me, sir. He heard what you said last night, so he went to the Lu family early in the morning to see the old man." Qiao Qiao's footsteps slowed down. In order to conceal her embarrassment of misunderstanding someone, she turned around and smiled slightly. "I understand. There is one last thing that the company needs me to solve, you don't need to send it anymore." Seeing that Qiao Qiao had regained his usual meticulousness, Zhang Bo couldn't help but sigh and watched as people boarded the car and drove away. Xiao Yu drove out of the yard and asked, "Miss, are we going back to the coastal New City now?" Coastal New City is the wedding house that Qiao's father bought for Qiao Xinyue, but Lu Yan was hooked up by Gu Shiyao and has not stayed overnight there for 3 years. Qiao Qiao looked at the scenery outside the car window and spoke softly, "No, go to the Lu family." "Qiao Qiao, do you remember having a dinner party with someone this afternoon?" Cha-Cha listened to her calm tone and inexplicably felt afraid that she would act impulsively and embarrass people in front of Lu Yan in public. "Isn't that just a hopeless impression?" Qiao Qiao sensed the unease of TT. She pinned the broken hair that had been blown up by the wind back in her ear and gently comforted it in her heart, saying, "Don't panic. This scumbag, Lu Yan, wants to divorce me and go talk sweet and sweet with Gu Shi. It's okay, but I have to discuss this couple's property with him." Upon hearing her words, Cha-Cha was immediately startled by her frightened expression. "How do you feel that?" Qiao Qiao's behavior has a strong intention of not tormenting Lu Yan and not giving up. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Qian Jin 5 Brainless Stupid Comparison. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Qian Jin 5 Brainless Stupid Comparison. The bright light penetrates through the large landing window, and the atmosphere in the conference room is slightly dignified. The man sitting at the head of the conference table has a suit cut properly, that is, when he looks down at the plan placed in front of him, his sharp face is condensed inch by inch. And the group of designers recruited by the new company below are on pins and needles. Even if they are dull, they will observe their words and expressions, and it can be seen that the CEO seems not very satisfied with their design drafts for a long time. Lu Huan frowned tightly and just spoke, "The design department." As soon as the conversation began, the director of the business department hurriedly rushed in, wiping his sweat and shouting in public, "Mr. Lu, your wife is here." Zhou Jie, standing next to Lu Huan, almost immediately sensed the boss's impatience. He looked at the person who was very lacking in vision and quickly walked over, whispering, "Didn't you see Mr. Lu in a meeting? Let's let go of this small matter for now. Everyone in the company knows that Mr. Lu doesn't like his wife and never gives her any special treatment in front of outsiders. Moreover, Mrs. Lu has always had a good temper towards Mr. Lu, who is busy with work. What's wrong with making her wait this time? Director Li is extremely difficult. Of course, he knows that Mr. Lu cannot be disturbed during the meeting. But why is he so unlucky? As soon as I came up, I ran into that little ant and had to be sent over to call someone, but, Mr. Zhou." Director Li stood at the door unwilling to leave, hesitating to say anything more before being pulled out by the cold-faced Zhou Jie. Bringing the person to the office of the chief assistant, Zhou Jie angrily rebuked, "Director Li, do you know what the unpleasant outcome of your reckless intrusion into the conference room is for Mr. Lu?" The middle-aged man who was scolded was sweating profusely, but he had words of suffering in his heart. He didn't know that the company has been promoting young employees more and more in recent years. People like them who are old and have skills are starting to sit on the sidelines, and he was able to make an exception and be promoted to director only 2 months ago when he proposed a selling point of attracting attention from the mall at a small meeting, which was then valued by Mr. Liu. If this time I called out to Mr. Liu for Mrs. Liu, but made him return to his original form and even face unemployment. Director Li couldn't imagine it. The man's expression of fear became more and more obvious. Just as he was about to say something pleasing, he suddenly heard a cold female voice coming from behind. I asked Director Li to come over and shout. Upon hearing this sound, Zhou Jie was taken aback. He looked up and saw the woman standing at the door, dressed in a black Hepburn-style suit and long skirt. Her black hair, which had been coiled up all year round, was now spread over her shoulders, slightly curled up, making her icy face even heavier. Especially the 2 little assistants who were originally staying at the door, were somehow called over by her at this moment. They opened the door of the assistant room for Qiao Qiao one by one, and when they saw the immortals fighting in front of them, they lowered their heads and dared not make a sound. Qiao Qiao looked at the young man at the table with a smile on her face. Without introducing him to tea, she could almost recognize him at a glance. This man was one of the most trusted people in the company by her temporary husband, Liu Yan, and Zhou Jie, the famous executive assistant of the Liu family. Mr. Zhou, what did you say to Director Li just now? Qiao Qiao stepped on her slender heels and greeted the little assistants who opened the door for her with a light smile, while entering Zhou Jie's office as if there were no one around. The assistants quickly exchanged glances and quickly closed the door to step back. Accompanying the landing in the mall for many years, Zhou Jie has long been a personal genius, and now there is no sign of Qiao Qiao's displeasure. Zhou Jie only considered himself a woman because he couldn't shout out Mr. Liu as he wished, so he deliberately teased him by pulling his braids. The stagnation on his face only lasted for a moment, and he quickly regained his composure. Madam. Don't call me that. As soon as the outsider left, Qiao Qiao's expression changed instantly. The light smile in his eyes was still there, but there was a chill in his words. Mr. Zhou, if anyone really has the same eye color as the outsider said, wouldn't he not even know my surname after all these years of being with Lu Huan? Listening to her words, Zhou Jie's astonishment in his eyes couldn't be stopped. It was clear that she and Liu summarized their marriage and demanded that everyone in the Liu family change their minds, but now. Mr. Qiao, Zhou Jie shouted in a somewhat muffled tone, and his words only began when Qiao Qiao interrupted him. Mr. Zhou's stay at the Liu family earns 1 million yuan annual salary. If you speak out so recklessly, I wonder what kind of fate Mr. Liu will bring you. The woman's voice was icy cold. Her words to change Zhou Jie's mouth just now were already shocking enough. Now, Zhou Jie is a bit stunned when he comes to scold a director who has not seen him many times in such a cold voice. Director Li, sandwiched between the two, trembled and wished he could huddle up in a corner, so that they wouldn't remember him when they argued. Mr. Qiao, you also know that Mr. Liu doesn't like to be interrupted by small things during meetings. Regarding Director Li's unauthorized intrusion into the conference room, I only gave a few words of discipline to maintain the company's rules. I believe Director Li can also understand. Zhou Jie, who quickly reacted, made a patient explanation on his face, but Qiao Qiao clearly caught the annoyance that flashed between the other person's eyebrows and eyes. Qiao Qiao only felt amused in his heart. Lu Huan's follower was truly worthy of following him. In the original text, Zhou Jie had always disliked Xiao Xinyue, who had a commercial alliance with Lu Huan. Instead, he felt that Gu Shiyao was 100 times more considerate than Xiao Xinyue, and wished to replace Lu Huan and Xiao Xinyue to divorce and be with Gu Shiyao as soon as possible. Qiao Qiao feels that this little supporting role is not enough to make her angry. She didn't come to the company to talk with such people who have no sense of right and wrong. Compared with the money she is about to get, Zhou Jie is nothing. So, Qiao Qiao only took note of what Zhou Jie had said in his heart and didn't even glance at anyone. He only said to Director Li, who was timid and sweaty, "It's really a problem for you. You have to make a living under such a foolish person. Isn't trying to meddle in a boss's marriage issue just a brainless idiot?" After saying these words, Qiao Qiao walked out of the assistant office with the frightened Director Li. Zhou Jie stared blankly at the back of the two leaving, feeling a bit overwhelmed for a moment. When did this Miss Qiao from the Qiao family become so vulgar and unpleasant in her speech? You should know that in the past, in order to make Mr. Lu look at her more, she even resorted to various means to try to bribe him and ask him to help her more in front of Mr. Lu. How could she talk to him like this with guns and sticks? Unable to figure out what was going on, Zhou Jie let out a sigh of impatience, only assuming that Qiao Qiao was playing with Mrs. Temper. After some thought, he still followed out. End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Qian Jin 6. Who will give alms to? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 7. Qian Jin 7 Replacement Task Objectives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Qian Jin 7 Replacement Task Objectives. On the seat of the car, he followed the outside movement with vigilance, and through the rearview mirror, he could clearly see the woman wearing a black dress with a slightly furrowed brow, and a moment of confusion appeared on her beautiful face. Timing placed his fingertips on the steering wheel and moved slightly. He then twisted his brow and put on his baseball cap from the passenger seat. When he noticed someone approaching the car, he instinctively thought it was a fan who recognized his car, but the woman's every move in the rearview mirror did not seem to be following his fanatic fans. However, with too many lessons learned from previous experiences, Timing feels compelled to be cautious. Perhaps this is a new tactic for fanatics. As he thought about it, Time Series recalled the fragmented thoughts Yang Chao would give him in his daily life. If you encounter an irrational fan, immediately drive away and call me. Thinking of this, sequentially press the phone and dial the number that is set to the top. After Qiao Qiao outside the car didn't pull the door handle, she was confused and walked to the driver's seat, gently tapping on the car window. Just as she spoke, she shouted, "Xiao Yu." Just as she thought Xiao Yu was just looking at her phone and didn't notice her coming, a familiar call came from behind her. "Mississippi. I'm here." Qiao Qiao was stunned for a moment. She turned her head and saw Xiao Yu leaning out of the driver's door not far away, waving at her. It was obvious that she had just sat in the car and realized that Qiao Qiao in front of her had not noticed her, so she came out and called out to her. Qiao Qiao turned her head again to look at the car that she had just knocked on the window of. The silver Maybach had smooth lines on its body, and even the door handles exuded a sense of luxury. Upon closer inspection, it was indeed similar in color to her car, and there was nothing else that was the same. Qiao Qiao raised her hand to cover her face and fled the scene with shame. As a spirit monster, she felt something awkward for the first time. Returning to the car, Qiao Qiao calmed down his panicked breath for a moment, and the first person he reminded was Xiao Yu. "Next time when I'm waiting, be sure to give me a clear and precise direction, okay?" Xiao Yu nodded in confusion and drove away while driving the navigation system. Qiao Qiao had already planned what to eat when Lu Shi and Lu Huan finished their meeting, and now Xiao Yu is taking her to the destination. I have never experienced such a scene of toes touching the ground before, so Qiao Qiao naturally cared very much. As she passed by the Maybach, she still remembered a face pressed against the glass, wanting to see if there was anyone in the car. But at this glance, Qiao Qiao froze completely. The front glass of the Maybach car was not covered with 1-way anti-peeping film, and she saw the figure sitting in the driver's seat at a glance. The other person was wearing a black duckbill hat, with the brim pressed low, only revealing a fair and thin chin. The man's hand resting on the steering wheel was well proportioned, absorbing sunlight from the outside. He wore a shiny silver ring on the slender index finger of his right finger, as if he was talking to someone. Perhaps happy, Joe even caught a small gesture of him smiling and shrugging his shoulders lightly. Seeing this, Qiao Qiao looked like a frightened bird, pulling his face back from the glass in a disheveled manner. Surprisingly, there is really someone in the car. The way she grabbed the door handle and knocked on the car window just now was indeed seen by a stranger. Qiao Qiao covered her face, wanting to cry without tears. At this moment, the soft and cute system sound of TT suddenly sounded. Ding! Trigger the hidden strategy character, timing. The host must choose one of the established strategy targets to replace. Upon hearing the sudden order from Cha-Cha, Qiao Qiao was somewhat surprised. This meant that one of the three people she had originally planned to conquer had to be replaced, and the substitute was this person named Time Series. Qiao Qiao has not finished watching the rest of the plot yet. Although it is unclear whether this timing is one of the many suitors of the female customer Shiyao, in any case, it is definitely much better than Lu Yi, who still remembers Gu Shiyao. Qiao Qiao decisively replaced Lu Huan with a time sequence. TT continued. Task corrected to 1. Completing Qiao Xinyue's wish to become a well-known actor, progress 0. 2. The strategy timeline is 100%, with a current positive rating of 10 and a progress rate of 10%. 3. Strategy Season Way. 100%, currently has 0 positive rating and 0 progress. 4. The strategy for Qianjin is 100%, currently with 0 likes and 0 progress. When Qiao Qiao heard about the favorability of Time Series towards her, she was shocked. She had not yet met this person, so why did she just? And so on. Qiao Qiao suddenly remembered the time when Cha-Cha asked her to replace the strategy target just now, as if it was not long after she had mistaken the car, and the only person who had seen her but didn't know who the other person was the owner of the Maybach. Qiao Qiao couldn't help but smile. She did not make the wrong choice, and this timing is quite easy to strategize. Yang Chao was discussing the issue of terminating the contract with someone who spoke an unfamiliar Chinese language. When he heard his brain buzzing, he received a phone call from the Time Series, and Yang Chao was a bit flattered. You should know that his boss can be said to do things as he pleases. Even if he encounters being followed to his doorstep by an illegitimate person, he never gives him a notice. It was only when he saw the keyword time sequence suspected of being detained on the hot search list that he realized that the person directly called the police. Thinking of his previous earnest instructions, Yang Chao suddenly became afraid that there was really something wrong with the timing. He quickly interrupted the person on the opposite sofa and walked outside to answer the phone. For a moment, after listening to a series of descriptive explanations from Time Series, Yang Chao felt like a heartbroken old father, always uneasy. What if she was really having an affair? What if she suddenly killed someone and brought a large number of media to surround you? I've told you so many times. When you encounter such a situation, you don't have to worry about anyone, just drive away. Listening to his lengthy speech, only a lazy smile from the other side could be heard from the receiver. The man's tone of voice was slightly raised, with a clear youthful aura. She's not. Yang Chao, who was originally preparing to give a lecture, suddenly breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing these words and asked with some suspicion, what good news is there today? How? Does he feel that Time Series is in a particularly good mood now? His questioning tone was heard across from him, and the lazy smile on the other side gradually subsided, returning to its usual lightness. Hang up. There was a beep in his ear as he hung up the phone, and Yang Chao let go. There was no big problem, the timing was still the same. What he didn't know was that if Jojo were still in front of Maybach's car window at this moment, he would definitely be able to see a man with a slightly raised head smiling on his lips, and a pair of deep blue pupils exposed under the brim of his hat, adding a touch of surprise to the already thin and delicate features. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Qianjin 8 Hot Pot, delicious and good to eat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Qianjin 8 Hot Pot, delicious and good to eat. Qiao Qiao chose a hot pot restaurant as the place to eat. When she could only turn it into a card, she often heard the whispers of the book friends who came and went in the bookstore, saying that what she wanted to eat hot pot must be crispy tripe, shrimp slip, duck intestines, small deep fried dough sticks. When it comes to the rise, there is even a debate over whether the dipping dish is a garlic oil dish or a spicy sauce dish. At that time, Qiao Qiao, who had never tasted what hot pot tasted like, always gritted his teeth secretly when he heard these words. Why do these people talk about food when chatting? There is a cruelty that disregards the life and death of others. But now in the private room, Zhou, sitting at the table, did not blink. She stared at the double flavor hot pot in the middle, which was steaming hot. The greedy insects in her stomach forced her to look away. It's boiling, you can start serving now. Sitting on the side, Xiaoyu was holding her phone when she suddenly heard a murmur to herself. It was then that she realized and quickly stood up, ready to put some food into the pot. Qiao Qiao put in a lot of effort before forcing herself to say something to stop her. Wait. Why hasn't Assistant Yao come yet? Human etiquette at the dinner table is as common as a cow's hair. Although she is not used to it, she still needs to abide by it when she comes here. Assistant Yao. Now it was Xiaoyu's turn to be confused. Seeing that Qiao Qiao's expression didn't seem like a joke, she pondered and said, "You didn't say you wanted Assistant Yao to come over now." Xiaoyu knows that since Miss Da secured the position of general manager, Assistant Yao has gradually become less important. However, rather than being neglected, it is more accurate to say that Miss Da's ability to independently wield power has become stronger. So in the past 2 years, the number of times Miss and Assistant Yao have met has not been as high as with her as a driver. Didn't I tell him to meet with the vice president of Yugua this afternoon? At this point, Qiao Qiao knew that neither Xiaoyu nor Assistant Yao could understand her meaning. She simply said, "I need to hand over the discussion with Vice President Xinghua to Assistant Yao. Xiaoyu, hurry up and let him come over for dinner first." Xiaoyu was surprised and realized before she was ready to make a phone call. "Miss, Assistant Yao may take a while to come over. If you're hungry, let's eat first." Upon receiving Xiaoyu's words, Qiao Qiao, who had been envious for a long time, immediately put the dishes into the pot. She was the only one in the private room, and she couldn't forget what she had heard from humans before. She muttered, "My belly is 7 up and 8 down for 15 seconds. After being scalded, the hairy belly was covered in sauce from the dipping plate. It tasted so delicious that Qiao Qiao almost bit off his tongue. How could it be so delicious? The crispy and refreshing tripe paired with spicy sauce hit Qiao Qiao's heart with just one bite, making it the most delicious food she has ever eaten in her life. And there's also shrimp, fat beef, duck blood, and golden needle mushroom. Let's all go down." Watching these ingredients rolling in the boiling pot, Qiao Qiao could almost think of the delicious food they had been eaten into her stomach. She couldn't help but shrug her shoulders with joy. Now, she can finally understand the joy of being a person. Hot pot, delicious and delicious, really delicious. When Xiaoyu finished calling and returned, the aroma of hot pot seasoning had already lingered in the private room, and what stunned her was Qiao Qiao, who swallowed a slippery shrimp with a whimper at the dining table. Her cheeks were bulging from eating, perhaps because it was too spicy. After getting wet, her black eyes became even brighter, and her face was even more red. Without her decisive and aggressive attitude in the company, she added a touch of innocence and cuteness to the little girl. Xiaoyu silently remembered in his heart that the young lady loves to eat hot pot. When Qiao Qiao was still feeling a bit unsatisfied with his meal, Assistant Yao finally pushed open the door of the private room. Yao Zilin pushed the black frame on his nose bridge. Although he was shocked by the scene of Qiao Qiao eating hot pot happily, he did not show any inappropriate expression on his face. "Mr. Xiao Qiao, I'm late." Upon hearing the sound, Qiao Qiao reluctantly put down her chopsticks. She looked up and saw Assistant Yao dressed in a black suit, with black framed glasses on his face that accentuated his refined demeanor. When greeting her, his expression was gentle but also with a hint of indelible sharpness, indicating that he was a high-ranking executive in the company. Unfortunately, although Yao Zilin was allocated to Qiao Xinyue by Qiao's father, he was mistakenly believed by Qiao Xinyue that Qiao's father did not believe in his own abilities, so he has been neglected for a long time in the past 2 years. Sit down quickly, eat first. The dishes ordered for the first time had already been finished by her and Xiaoyu. Qiao Qiao called the waiter to bring new ones and personally put them into the pot. Upon seeing this, Yao Zilin quickly stood up to help her, but Qiao Qiao said directly, "Just sit down. Xiaoyu and I have already finished our meal. Isn't it 1:30 p.m. when the vice president of Xinhua meets? There are still 45 minutes left. To make people contribute, one must always be considerate of them." Yao Zilin finished the hot pot with great favor and was even more surprised when he heard that Qiao Qiao was preparing to let him talk about cooperation. Although he has not been highly valued in the company in recent years, Mr. Qiao has still paid him the correct salary. Even if he is feeling a bit depressed, he cannot bear too much resentment. But now, is Mr. Qiao actually starting to make him work? After being salted for so long, Yao Zilin was finally able to come out and breathe. Of course, he was happy, but more importantly, he was puzzled. Mr. Qiao's decision was too sudden. But the next second, Yao Zilin heard Qiao Qiao calmly say, "At present, the company's affairs will slowly be handed over to my dad. Assistant Yao, please help me take care of my dad more in the company in the future." "Mr. Xiao Qiao, you..." Yao Zilin stuttered a rare moment. Listening to Qiao Qiao's words, it's obvious that he doesn't want to stay in the company anymore. Qiao Qiao glanced at him and chuckled lightly, "Don't misunderstand, I'm going to pursue my dream." Entering the entertainment industry and becoming an excellent actress has always been the dream of the original owner Qiao Xinyue. However, she is the only daughter of the Qiao family, and the burden of the company naturally falls on her. As soon as she graduated from college, she had no choice but to enter the workplace. So the first task given by Cha-Cha is to help Qiao Yeye fulfill her dream. Qiao Qiao quickly explained the content of the conversation with Xinhua to Yao Zilin, who took note of it and drove there. "Miss, are you really not going to take a look?" Xiao Yumu escorted Yao Zilin away, but she still couldn't believe the transformation of the young lady. In the past, she had to personally handle everything in front of the company. Why is it now that only Assistant Yao went there alone? Xinhua is also a big company, don't you think they're taking Zhou? Qiao Qiao smiled and reached out to pinch Xiaoyu's chubby cheeks, interrupting her worries. "You don't need to go, Assistant Yao can do it alone," she said. She has offered such favorable conditions, and merchants know how to choose. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The memories of Qian Jin's death attack me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The memories of Qian Jin's death attack me. Once Assistant Yao and Yugua have reached an agreement, it means she is one step closer to fulfilling Qiao Xinyue's dream of entering the entertainment industry. Therefore, Qiao Qiao still has an important task to do now. "Do you want to buy anything?" "But there are too many people here." Xiao Yu escorted Qiao Qiao as she walked towards the mall. She was a trainee with a stable chassis, but she was still squeezed by people coming and going, and her speech was somewhat interrupted. "Today is the weekend, and this is also the busiest street in the city center, so in my spare time, there is naturally a sea of people." Qiao Qiao was hit twice on the shoulder by someone approaching her. She frowned in pain and was about to tell Xiao Yu that she couldn't go in. Suddenly, a sticky sensation came from her waist, making Qiao Qiao's hair stand on end. She struggled to turn her head and looked over, but what she was facing was a face with a yellow and fat face. Her small eyes smiled slightly, exuding a sense of cruel and inhumane lewdness. Although Qiao Qiao didn't know what had happened, the greasy expression on this person's face made her feel a physiological discomfort. Qiao Qiao's face immediately turned cold. She was about to conjure up a sword card with an attack to teach this sleazy man a lesson, but was quietly informed by Cha-Cha that she could only predict good or bad luck for now and could not use the card to harm people. Qiao Qiao. Seeing her face frozen, the short and sleazy man thought that Qiao Qiao, like the women he had met, dared not speak out in anger. He proudly grinned his big yellow teeth and was about to continue touching her. Unexpectedly, in the next second, his hand was tightly gripped by a force. The man looked up in shock, but what fell was a rapid black shadow. The sharp metal cut through his skin, and the pain made him scream uncontrollably. I let you touch people randomly. What a stupid thing. Qiao Qiao struggled to hold back his disgust and pulled out his bag from the crowded crowd, lifting his hand and smashing it fiercely in his face. Xiao Yu also realized at this moment. When she heard Qiao Qiao's curses, her face turned extremely ugly. Without saying a word, she kicked the lewd man who had been beaten up by a leather bag and flew to the ground. As the man fell to the ground like a maggot, rolling and howling, the crowd couldn't help but scatter a little around Qiao Qiao, and suspicious eyes fell on them one after another. Xiao Yu protected Qiao Qiao behind him and took out his phone to call 110 in front of everyone. The sleazy man who was originally lying on the ground preparing to be pitiful was about to call the police when Xiao Yu spoke. He immediately panicked and got up from the ground in embarrassment, turning his head and wanting to run. But Xiao Yu was already prepared and kicked the lewd man's hind leg horizontally, causing him to face down and hit the ground with a series of screams. There were people around who were watching the excitement, so they couldn't help but speak up and persuade Xiao Yu, girl, even if he did something bad, there's no need for him to act so harshly, right? Qiao Qiao, who was in a very bad mood, lifted his eyelids when he heard this and looked over coldly. He spoke frankly, if he had touched your butt just now, could you still say that? When Qiao Qiao spoke these words, it was like a dose of forbidden medicine. Everyone present sighed, and no one dared to say that Xiao Yu had gone too far. The ant who had been scolded by Qiao Qiao walked away with a pale face, not looking at the lewd man on the ground again. Yes, this person is just a pervert. He just touched me too. Qiao Qiao stood up to expose the person, and soon a girl in the crowd who had also been harassed gathered up the courage to expose the lewd man. The girl's companion was angry in her eyes and pretended to pull the girl away, but in reality, she accidentally stepped on the lewd man several times to relieve her anger. The sleazy man was tightly pressed to the ground by Xiao Yu, and his left and right hands were repeatedly trampled on by others. The panic and pain that could not be freed came one after another, which gave him a strong sense of fear. He won't really have to squat on the sidelines, will he? Police station. The police officer who finished taking notes for the sleazy man looked at the two girls sitting on the sofa with unattractive faces. Li Minglu felt a big head, but he still took 2 cups of white wine and comforted them. How do you feel? Qiao Qiao didn't speak. Xiao Yu noticed her impatience and immediately took the 2 glasses of water, saying, Officer, we've all been monitored and it should prove that we're not lying, right? Can we leave now? As soon as Li Minglu saw her, he remembered seeing Xiao Yu kicking the man away in the surveillance footage. With lingering fear, he touched the tip of his nose and promptly sent them out. The person driving here was Yao Zilin. He had just finished with Yugua when he received a call from Xiao Yu, so he hurriedly drove to the police station. Qiao Qiao sat in the back seat in frustration, while Xiao Yu went to the convenience store to buy snacks and water for her. While waiting for Xiao Yu to come back, Yao Zilin, who was holding the steering wheel, secretly glanced at the rearview mirror, pressed his phone, typed a few words, and sent them to the person across from him. The car was too stuffy, so Qiao Qiao pressed the window and lay on top. Her frustration was not that she had been touched by that sleazy man, after all, her original form was just a deck of cards. Thousands of years ago, before she could cultivate her mind, she had been touched by countless people one by one. Qiao Qiao is annoyed, why can she only predict the easiest good or bad fortune now? She asked Cha-Cha several times in her mind, but was only told that her current progress on the task was too slow, and only by completing the strategy task could she receive the reward to awaken her talent. The anger is really not going well. It's all because of that ugly greasy man. Qiao Qiao sharpened his teeth and was determined to accelerate the pace of advancing the task. As she thought about it, Qiao Qiao accidentally glanced at her, and her gaze suddenly froze. The police officer who was fussing in the police station just now is standing next to a car on the roadside, talking to the people inside. Qiao Qiao couldn't help but squint her eyes. The color of this car seems very similar to the one she saw this morning. The headlights are also so big, and the exhaust holes on the front of the car also look so expensive. In the morning, a feeling of embarrassment that made her scalp tingle emerged again. Qiao Qiao couldn't help but slap her forehead hard, and the memories of her death began to attack her again. Qiao Qiao immediately raised the car window, but she wanted to see what the owner of the car looked like again. However, Assistant Yao parked the car too cleverly. She could only see half of her hand faintly exposed in the front glass of the car, with slender and symmetrical fingers, and a bright color flashing through the reflection of the sunlight. Very good, with just this hand, Qiao Qiao can be certain that it must be the car he encountered this morning. Qiao Qiao's awkward emotions didn't last long because Xiao Yu bought her 2 sweet egg tarts and milk tea, and the delicious food cleared her of worries. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Qian Jin 10 Tank Reverse Card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Qian Jin 10 Tank Reverse Card. After such a tumultuous afternoon, night had already fallen when I returned to the coastal new city. When Qiao Qiao pressed the fingerprint lock at home, she suddenly remembered that when she had just put on this body, Lu Huan was also at home. In case Lu Huan would enter here again, she simply cleared all the entered fingerprints and then re-entered her own. This is the house that Qiao's father bought for Qiao Xinyue. That scumbag can't even touch this place again. Xiao Yu, who followed her into the house, didn't pay much attention to Qiao Qiao's tampering with the door lock. It was already past 7 o'clock, and Qiao Qiao only had a little dessert to cushion her stomach. She had to prepare dinner for her before leaving. Xiao Yu, can you accompany me to the mall again in the next few days? After closing the door, Qiao Qiao felt a bit tired. She hugged a pillow and collapsed on the sofa, watching Xiao Yu's busy figure in the semi-open kitchen, making a request. Xiao Yu is frying steak for Qiao Qiao. She hasn't come over to check these days, and there aren't many fresh dishes in the refrigerator. Considering that Qiao Qiao has already eaten something just now, she won't cook too much food. Of course it's good. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Yu first responded and then curiously asked, "What are you going to buy at the mall?" Qiao Qiao sat up cross-legged, placed a pillow on his chin, and said seriously, "Buy nice clothes." She has carefully read online these past few days, and now everyone in the world likes those Instagram-style outfits. However, the clothes in Qiao Xinyue's cloakroom are either too workplace-oriented or too formal for occasions, not casual and comfortable at all, and not in line with her aesthetics. And, in the future, when entering the entertainment industry, you can't just wear a suit, right? Buy clothes. You can shop online. Xiao Yu served the steak on a plate, sprinkled it with black pepper to season it, and quickly peeled the oranges and threw the pulp into the juicer. She quickly prepared Qiao Qiao's dinner. Xiao Yu originally wanted to wait for Qiao Qiao to come over to the table to eat. After all, the young lady always wanted her to be dignified, but when she turned around, she saw Qiao Qiao lying on the sofa by the armrest, looking straight at her. Xiao Yu looked at the plate in his hand, hesitated for a moment, and then asked, "Do you want to eat at the coffee table?" When Qiao Qiao nodded, Xiao Yu brought a plate and orange juice over. The steak had already been thoughtfully cut open by Xiao Yu, and Qiao Qiao was satisfied with it. She didn't forget to pull Xiao Yu and ask, "What is online shopping?" Faced with Qiao Qiao's inquiry, Xiao Yu did not suspect him. He only assumed that Qiao Qiao was used to shopping in offline stores and had never used those shopping apps. After Xiaoyu patiently explained to her, Qiao Qiao's whole face was a bit excited. Her beautiful black eyes shone brightly as she poked the screen and asked Xiaoyu, "Do you think this is how you place your order?" Previously, Xiaoyu had never seen the young lady look like this in private. Unlike her cold and charming demeanor in front of outsiders, she was like a curious baby who had discovered a new world. Xiaoyu's heart was so soft, and her voice softened a lot. "That's right, and then you need to stick your fingerprint and enter your password to successfully place the order. Within a certain period of time, the merchant will deliver the item to your doorstep." Speaking of express delivery, Xiaoyu pondered for a moment. Within the coastal New City community, there are highly private single elevators and households. The express delivery will be handed over to the property downstairs and then delivered to the owner's doorstep. After carefully explaining the delivery matter to Qiao Qiao, Xiaoyu finally left. These past few days, Qiao Qiao has been living a very uncomfortable life. He sleeps until dawn every day, and during the day, he goes online to learn about modern human socializing, dressing, beauty, and so on. The company's affairs are fully entrusted to Assistant Yao, and apart from the endless 8 digits on his account, he seems to have nothing to worry about. However, I don't know if it's because Qiao's father talked to Mr. Lu about it. When Qiao Qiao became addicted to online shopping, Lu Huan even played a message for her. The general meaning is to question her why she ran to the old man without saying a word of greeting and talked nonsense. In those 2 or 3 lines of text, it can be seen that Lu Yuan is extremely angry, as if he wants to cross the screen and scold her angrily. However, Qiao Qiao didn't bird him and accidentally deleted his account. In addition to Lu Mei's short message, Qiao Qiao also received a message from a strange number. At that time, Qiao Qiao was learning makeup from the beauty blogger. Eyeliner was one of the most difficult steps to draw. The ringing of the bell directly made her hand shake, and the smooth line of writing suddenly tilted. Qiao Qiao gritted his teeth in anger and directly blocked this spam message. After a leisurely week, Qiao Qiao was preparing and finally received a call. Although the other party's attitude was relatively normal, Qiao Qiao keenly noticed some coldness in her tone. "Miss Qiao, I am Li Tianier, the deputy director of the movie, Desire. I will send you the time and location later. Please come to audition on time tomorrow." After Qiao Qiao responded, the other person quickly hung up the phone. Qiao Qiao didn't pay attention and clicked on the message sent by Li Tianier. "Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, it's at Zhechuan building." Putting down his phone, Qiao Qiao's fingertips dashed into the air and instinctively drew a tarot card. Upon flipping it over, it turned out to be a tank reverse card. The chariot emblem is a warrior driving a chariot pulled by 2 human-faced sphinxes, holding a spear-shaped scepter, representing victory. But if the chariot goes in reverse, it means that she is likely to suffer a disastrous defeat in the future. Qiao Qiao's predictions have never been wrong. During her peak of abilities, she could even use a tower card to determine life or death, but now this card has made her somewhat suspicious of herself. You should know that while staying at home this week, she not only learned about human life, but also specifically asked Cha Cha to carefully examine many details of the movie Desire that the female customer were rumored to be participating in. A week ago, Qiao Qiao had Assistant Yao and Xinghua Entertainment discuss a collaboration on this movie. They can provide free cinema promotion for this movie, and in exchange, the lead actress in Desire must be Qiao Qiao. The film industry under the Qiaojia Shanghai Group was at the forefront of S-City, and being able to receive strong promotion from Shanghai undoubtedly contributed to the explosive popularity of this movie. Therefore, at that time, Qiao Qiao was confident that although only Assistant Yao was sent to discuss cooperation, Xinghua had no reason to refuse. Moreover, she did not choose the first female student, but the second female student with a less likable personality. "Cha-Cha, how could I draw a reverse license plate? You know, I've already figured out the character Yan Yu thoroughly, and I've watched several movies with similar characters. How could I not perform well? She was just thinking about the movie when she drew the license plate. Qiao Qiao scattered the phantom of the tower cards floating in the air and flipped over on the bed anxiously. The soft child voice of TT said in a slow voice, "Could it be that the director is too picky?" Cha-Cha's words were like hitting the nail on the head. Qiao Qiao suddenly sat up and grabbed her slightly fluffy linen brown curly hair, frowning and recalling the temperament of director Ji Wei from Desire. For those who use browsers to read articles, clicking on the advertisement in the article is the motivation for authors to code for free. End of this chapter.